welcome in everybody to the Chicago Sports Mayhem Show. And God darn it, I have a lot of energy this week. You want to know why I have a lot of energy this week? And you know what? Before I forget everybody, I should introduce myself because I would be a bad host if I did not introduce myself. My name is Andrew Mighty Man Jide, and for you, those of you that know me, I am your host of the Chicago Sports Mayhem Talk Show here on its very own YouTube channel. And you know what? I came into this week, guys, with a lot more energy, a lot more going on, because a lot happened in Chicago sports this week. There was a lot to watch, there was a lot to catch up on, there was a lot to do. I could keep my wits about me with how much sports was going on this weekend in the city of Chicago, because it was just amazing, not only in the city of Chicago, but for the city of Chicago. And you know what? I think we have to talk about one of the biggest ones that everyone kind of is still talking about on both sides of town. Why did I say both sides of town? Well, I'm talking about the Crosstown Series, the last iteration of the Crosstown Series. We will see this year took place at Wrigley this past weekend. The Cubs took 2 out of 3 from the White Sox in that series and still hold the lead in the overall Crosstown Series by a couple games now. Now, as this lower third says, and it's a little big, you can't see my face, who had the better series? Now, I'm not saying who won the series, who had the better series. And, you know, that's a big question to ask, right? That's a really, really, really big question to ask, is who had the better series? And in my opinion, it was kind of an even draw. You want my honest opinion? I really think this series was an even draw in the way these teams played, and the way these teams were all about themselves, and how they went in and out of things and had to work through certain things. I mean, it was kind of cool to see both these teams at the level they are at right now, playing really good baseball and just having a good time out there. So I really think that this was just an even series played between both teams this past week. There we go. Now you can see me, and I apologize for that taking a minute. Jeez, but we're back. Anyway, guys, yeah, I think this series, it was really evenly played through both these ball clubs, right? I mean, in all three of these games, neither team looked like they were out of it. We had a rain delay in one of them, extra innings in the first game. I mean, what more do you want out of a Crosstown Series, right? What more do you want? But that is not all that happened this weekend, this past week. There was a lot of fun to be had around the, basically everything. Everything, just a lot. Try to think of the way I should put that together for you guys. A lot happened. It was a fun week. We previewed Bears last week, and I think that was a big part of it. We previewed Bears last week, and we're going to talk about the Bears and the Cubs and the White Sox all today. Because I will be honest, as a White Sox fan, everyone, I truly, 9 times out of 10, am not thinking about baseball this time of year, right? White Sox fans the past few years, baseball has kind of been out of our heads by this point of the year. But this year, gosh dang it, I have to keep my eye on 3 separate teams, 2 sports. But hey, I love doing it, right? And I think the Bears just being, coming out of the gate like they did last year, this is going to be a fun October if both the Cubs and the White Sox were to make the postseason. And then you got Bears football coming up right behind that. I mean, this could be a really, really fun October and, 2 weeks of September. I mean, this could really be fun. But you know what? let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is that not preseason, the Crosstown Series. It's kind of what has been fresh on everyone's mind. A lot happened. There was a fight in the stands. I was going to put together a B-roll of that, and I thought, guys, why do we want to give that airtime, right? Because it's almost like we're condoning it. And some people might look at me and say, well, Andrew, you're a Chicago fan. You know, it's good for the rivalry. It's good. For me, that kind of stuff is not good for the rivalry, right? And I think Cubs fans have this notion of Sox fans where we're just this brawling, blue collar, whatever type of team. And to me, we're not. We're not that type of team. We're not that type of fan base. We are blue collar. We're the working man's. They're the working man's team, in my opinion. But blue collar fans, that is the White Sox demographic. But to say we're knockdown, drag out punchers, screamers, fighters, bad people, that is not true by any stretch of the imagination. And let's not forget that this brawl didn't take place on the south side. It took place on the north side. So no, I don't condone things like that. That's why I didn't put together a clip of it, because I don't condone it. I don't condone it. Because why? You're gonna get 5 minutes of fame, and then you're gonna be banned from MLB parks for the rest of your life. What was that worth to you? What, maybe $50 you could get from YouTube if the video goes viral? Maybe a little more. I don't know, but that's just something. To me, that's not good for the rivalry. That's not good for the sport of baseball. I think fans, especially now, should be able to come together at certain points. Now, Cubs and Sox fans notoriously do not get along, and we saw it this weekend. But I want to talk about the teams in this series, right? Because they both came into this series with something to prove. I mean, they both came into the series with all three of these games meaning something. Normally, when you get to this point, like I said, when you're a Sox fan, you get to this point in the season, yeah, you're playing this Crosstown Series, and you're playing for bragging rights, but the Sox were playing to keep first place in the AL Central, which they still have, shockingly, after losing this afternoon to Atlanta as well. But, I mean, it was a good series. I think they have fun. Both teams, the fan bases had fun. That Wrigley was packed all week long, and it was just so much fun to watch. Now, I want to take a look at everybody. Just let's break down each game, right? So the Cubs in Game 1 had 7 runs, 14 hits, and 0 errors, right? Game 2, they have 4 runs, 8 hits, and 1 error. Game 3 is where the Cubs really fell apart in Game 3 with 0 runs, only 2 hits, and no errors. Now, here's where I kind of get with the Cubs, where you're kind of like that roller coaster right now, to where you got two good games, and then you come in Game 3, and credit to White Sox pitching. I mean, they got the job done. 2 hits and no runs. But here's what I like with the Sox. Even though they lost the first 2 games in the series, let's take a look at this. Game 1, they had 5 runs on 4 hits with 2 errors. Game 2, they had 3 runs on 10 hits with no errors. Game 3, they had 3 runs on 9 hits with no errors. But here's the one thing with the Sox. Yeah, they lost 2 of those games, but it is consistency. Consistency. You see them scoring almost the same amount of runs in 2 games, then they're scoring 2 more in that first game. They're just staying consistent, which is a good thing if you're a Sox fan, and if you are the Sox. But, and I can say this with all love to my Sox fandom, but as a sports pundit, I have to say to the Sox, like, don't loosen the noose, right? Don't give them, and when I say them, the rest of the AL Central, a chance to take that spot away from you. If I were Will Venable, I would be coming up with game plan after game plan after game plan to make sure I keep that number one spot in the AL Central. Now, I realize people are looking at, probably going at home, but Andrew, that's what every coach wants to do. Why are you saying like Venable's doing this like it's something special? Well, what I mean by him, not relinquishing it, go out there, be a dog. Do not like grind on teams. Step on their throats. Show them what the South Side can do. And that's the fan coming out of me. Now, as a sports pundit, you want to play the right way. You want to play with honor, respect, and integrity. I think that those are two of the biggest things with that. You want to play with honor, respect, and integrity, I think, are the big things. But you also want to play hard and fast. And I think the key with the White Sox this year has been playing loose. They don't scoreboard watch. They don't do any of that because they're just a bunch of young players. They don't care about their numbers going into next year. Because let me tell you something. I doubt that Mooney is going over there and he's looking, okay, I got 29 home runs. Oh my God, I could get to 40 by the end of the year. No, he's not. These guys are not thinking any of that. They're not saying it. I think the one thing this team was, in my opinion at the time, ambitious for saying at the time, was coming into spring training and going, yeah, we're good enough. We can make the postseason. Let's go get it done. And I mean, they have proven it time and time and time again. Now, back to that question of who had the better series. Well, like I keep saying, it was kind of an equal series where the Cubs kind of showed why they're a postseason contender in those first two games. But then on the flip side of that coin, the White Sox came up and were like, no, you're not sweeping us. You're not sweeping us. Nah. They were like, no, never in a million years will you sweep us again. So they came back that game 3 and they just shut the door on the Cubs offense. So to me, it played out to be a pretty even series. I don't want to say one team did better than the other. Yes, the Cubs took 2 out of 3. So what? Interleague play. Cubs fans, you want your bragging rights for a year? Go get your bragging rights. I don't really care. Now, there is an elephant in the room that needs to be talked about. And we will talk about that next. Because, gosh, guys, there's a lot to unpack this week. So, a lot has been happening. A lot has been going on this week, like we opened up the show with. And a sport is back, and there's a whole lot we're going to have to unpack about this possibility of this event taking place. But we will talk about all that next.
Steroids can really damage your body. They can cause tendons to tear and bones to stop growing, damage kidneys, destroy the liver, even cause heart attacks and strokes. Not to mention something else they can do to a guy's body. Find out more about the dangers of using steroids. Visit drugfree.org.
Do your kids love fire engines and the fire service? Come on down to the Elgin Fire Bar No. 5 Museum, Elgin, Illinois, 533 St. Charles Street. If you want to get married on the back of a fire engine, come on down to the Elgin Fire Bar No. 5 Museum. Rentals of the building starting at just $100. Join the thousands of people already through doors. Don't wait, come now. And welcome back, everybody, to the Chicago Sports Mayhem Show. I am your host, Andrew Mighty Man Shide. And I am very, very, very happy to be with all of you here on the Chicago Sports Mayhem Show, my very own show that I created, produce, host. I do everything for the show, but I love doing it, and I love bringing you guys everything Chicago sports once a week. Now, before we went to break, I kind of hinted at an event that could take place this fall. It's a really slim chance, and I didn't even want to look up the numbers too, because I didn't even want to put that out into the universe. But since people have already been putting this one out in the universe, I guess we could talk about it. And that is, will we see a pure Chicago World Series this year? Okay, that is a lot to unpack. That right there is a lot to unpack. Now, if I'm being completely honest with everyone here, being the sports historian that I love being as well, I have looked this up, and it has happened in MLB history. Now, has it happened in modern MLB history? No. And I'm talking the Cubs played the White Sox in the World Series in 1906, with the White Sox taking that World Series victory from the Cubs. How realistic, in my opinion, do I see this coming to a Cubs White Sox World Series in 2026? I don't know. I don't know, and I don't even want to put a guess out there of like a percentage of, I think, okay, 25% chance or 80% chance or 92%. I can't even give you that because of how open the entire league still is division-wise. I mean, no one has really taken a stranglehold on their division to say, we can win or lose. Now, Milwaukee has had a hold on the NL Central for a while. The Cubs are slowly fighting their way back. The Sox are continuing to, by the grace of God and everything else out there, are holding on to first place in the AL Central. But yeah, I don't have a percentage guess for you right now. Is it still technically a possibility with the way this season has gone as a whole for the MLB and all these teams? I totally believe so. Yes, I believe that we can see a Cubs White Sox World Series. Now, things would have to play in such a weird way for it to happen. There are so many good National League teams the Cubs would have to get by. And on the other side of that, there are so many good American League teams the White Sox would have to get by. So this would be more a question I want to circle back to if both the Cubs and White Sox start to make a deep run in the postseason. If that were to happen, we can revisit this question. But, let's talk about the postseason for both of these clubs and just how realistic it stands right now. All right. So both these teams are at the top of their divisions. The White Sox are leading the AL Central. The Cubs are in second place in the NL Central. So both these teams are at the top of their divisions. I think it is a very good possibility that we're going to see October baseball on both sides of town. And I did not think that I would be saying that this year. I had this White Sox team pegged as an 81-81 team coming out of this season. So let me just be honest in saying that one right there. I did not think that come, August 20th or, end of August, that the White Sox could still technically win 100 games. They would have to win out technically at this point. but it could still happen. With that being said, are we going to see a finish like 1983 and the winning ugly team, which if anyone from my generation has not gone back on YouTube and watched clips from the White Sox in 83, that's fun to see, man. Go watch some highlights, man. Go watch some of that because my dad was right, man. That is a team. And it took them 99 wins to win the division back then. I don't think it's going to take the White Sox 99 wins to win the AL Central this year. Now, I could be wrong. I could be flat broke wrong, not know what the heck I'm talking about, throw me out with the trash. I don't care. But I think this White Sox team has turned a lot of heads this year, and I truly believe that they're going to make a run in the postseason. And someone I know, one of my instructors here at Illinois Media School, who I get to film this podcast for you every week here at Illinois Media School O'Hare campus. So one of my instructors here, he always this year equated to this White Sox team, kind of looked at them at the same as the 2015 Cubs, right? Not all the way there, but there, okay? And we all know what that Cubs team went on to do a year later. Now, it would suck if the White Sox made it all the way to the ALCS, lose to whoever it might be, and they're feeling really good about themselves, Chris Katz and all that. They're feeling really good about where they're at as a team, and they really feel that they can win the World Series in 2027, and then the hammer drops, and there's no MLB season. I mean, I would be irate. And let me tell you, I really think the White Sox are trying to make a push this year because I think a lot of teams are not really saying at the moment there's going to be no MLB baseball next year, but they kind of got it in the back of their heads, right? So I think a lot of these teams that are kind of ready for a postseason push, but not really ready for that postseason push, are making that push because they don't know who they're going to have under contract the next time they step out onto that field. And it's really weird to think about it that way, right? I mean, but yeah, I mean, the postseason in October is going to look really interesting if the Cubs and White Sox both make it. I mean, the Cubs having to get by teams like the Milwaukee Brewers and Dodgers just to make a Cubs-White Sox World Series would just be, I don't know. It would be awesome to see, right? Because all that going on. But I guess, we'll have to wait and see. But I think both of these teams are going to have a lot of fun this last month of the regular season. And I don't think the White Sox are going to fall. Yeah, you lost 2 out of 3 to the Cubs. You lost today to Atlanta in that standalone game that really wasn't a makeup to a series. It was kind of you had the 2-game series, the postponed game. Then MLB said today, oh no, this is just the standalone single game today that they played as a makeup. But yeah, I mean, the White Sox are currently on a 16-game, no days off stretch, and it's going to that fatigue is going to start to show, which is why I believe the White Sox brought in depth like Brenton Doyle. They did, even though he didn't last long before getting injured, they did bring in Joey Bart. Now they brought in Jake Rogers. And I just think that with this stretch coming out, you're going to see a lot of fatigue on the back end of this stretch. And I think you're going to see a lot of guys getting days off in this stretch, right? I would not be surprised if you see Mooney take a day off. They give him a day off. here and there in this stretch, because you just want to keep those big guys healthy, like Miguel Vargas, like Tristan Peters, like Munetaka Murakami, like Colson Montgomery. Even though with Colson Montgomery, I feel that his strikeout numbers are a little high for my taste. But hey, that's just me, right? But it's going to be a fun season, fun month to wrap up this regular season here in Chicago for the MLB, for baseball, and for everything else going on. But another sport has made its way into the fold, everybody. That's right. I am talking about the NFL, and the Bears have now officially had their first preseason game of 2026. How did they do? What needs to be addressed? We will talk about all of that and more next.
Steroids can really damage your body. They can cause tendons to tear and bones to stop growing, damage kidneys, destroy the liver, even cause heart attacks and strokes. Not to mention something else they can do to a guy's body. Find out more about the dangers of using steroids. Visit drugfree.org.
Do your kids love fire engines and the fire service? Come on down to the Elgin Fire Bar No. 5 Museum, Elgin, Illinois, 533 St. Charles Street. If you want to get married on the back of a fire engine, come on down to the Elgin Fire Bar No. 5 Museum. Rentals of the building is starting at just $100. Join the thousands of people already through the doors. Don't wait, come now. And welcome back, everybody, to the Chicago Sports Mayhem Talk Show. I'm your host, Andrew Mighty Man Scheid. Great to have you guys with me. Yeah, before we went to break, I kind of teased, football is back. But before we move on to that, I want to spend 2 last minutes talking about this Crosstown Series and just where I see both these teams kind of sitting together. Now, when we take a look at all this, it was a great week. Patrick Kane in Game 2 threw out the first pitch. The prodigal son returns. Awesome to see that. There he is with Clark. But here's the one thing that the White Sox are good at. They have a good eye at the plate. You saw it there with Antonacci. Same thing with Murakami, who's usually up before him. But this is the one thing that was the hindrance to the the White Sox, that entire week was this guy right here, Pete Crow Armstrong, and his home run ability. Michael Busch, too, jacking another one out in that second game is just something. This Cubs team, you're going to come against teams like this in the postseason in the American League if you're the White Sox. So that's just something you need to watch. Now, something the White Sox were able to do is get guys on and drive them in, like Romo was able to do here with Chase Meidroth. And Chase Meidroth, to me, is one of those gutsy players. You can see Romo just sticking the bat out there. They're not trying to do too much, and I think that's the biggest thing with this White Sox team is they're not trying to do too much. Now, before we went to break, I kind of teased that another sport is getting underway. That is the NFL and football. The Bears' first preseason game is in the books, right? And it was a good game. I will give props to the Bears. It was a really, really, really good game. Now, I'm not going to say there weren't pitfalls and stuff that they need to work on, because there most definitely is. There's most definitely stuff that needs to be addressed for this team, and there's most definitely stuff that needs to be worked on. Now, with that being said, this was still a really, 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 really great game to watch. When you think about it, most of these guys were backups playing in week 1. Yes, you did see some defensive starters, but you didn't see a lot of offense. Technically, you saw no offensive starters in this week 1 for the Bears. And you know what? I'm okay with that, because Ben Johnson really needs to go out there and see if God forbid something does happen to Caleb at any point. I'm not saying this year, or it could be next year. It could be, but he needs to know who he has under contract and what they can do. And right now, his number 2, number 3 are, Tyson Bagent and Case Keenum, and you also have Moss out there, who I think is going to be a practice squad guy this year. And I think your number 2 or 3 guys are going to be Bagent and Case Keenum. Now, if you were to look at me and say, who's going to be number 2 and who's going to be number 3, I can't tell you that right now. Because Saturday showed me one thing, guys, is you could tell that Bagent was sitting on a bench for the past 3 years. And what do I mean by that? Well, we'll look at it in this highlight, but first let's talk about the defense. I feel like that's something that was there for the Bears, and they needed to address. You saw it there, great takedown right here. But here's something that needs to be addressed. Here's a bad play. That should have been an easy takedown for the Bears, and here he is going over 30 yards. Now, when I say it should be an easy takedown from a former defensive player, and we're watching it back right here, right there, right here is where they should have had him, and they didn't. You see 2 Bears collide, and it just didn't work. And he's just gassing players on his way out the door. Now, this is one thing Bagent did really well right here. He can get the pass off when he's not pressured or any of that. And Davis showed a lot of good things. But here's another thing. Bagent, this is a play that Bagent has to be able to make right here. And he was not able to make that play. But then again here, he had the defense shining again in this game. So, I mean, there was just so much that it was just like what was going on at points. And I can honestly say, yeah, Bagent, you could tell, has been sitting for, 3 years. He showed a lot of rust. And, that's okay. That is okay. You're not going to go out and gangbusters on every single game you play, right? Now, let's take a look at Saturday afternoon a little more in depth, right? They had a total of 34 points, 34 unanswered points. Let's not forget that little fun fact right there. A total of 430 yards, a total. Now, here is where I get a little with everything. 348 passing yards, 82 rushing yards, just 82. I'm not the biggest fan of that. Just because of the fact of, and I get it. Kyle Monangai didn't start. DJ Swift, Swift didn't play. I totally get that. Roshan Johnson played a little bit, and he's supposed to be, that number 3 guy if Monangai or Swift goes down. And, I just either did not see Ben Johnson scheming towards the run game too much. When you saw his offensive coordinator take over play calling later in the game, you saw a little more of the run game take over. But still, I would like to see the rushing yards to really pick up for the Bears in these last 2 preseason games as they head to Cincinnati for a matchup this weekend with the Bengals. Now, going through the rest of this, they did have 3 takeaways as a defense in this game. One was an absolute dart pickoff of Shedeur Sanders. God, that makes me feel good. I don't know why. There's just something about Shedeur Sanders, and all props to him. Might be a good player one day. There's just something about him. The football fan in me just has issues with. But yeah, I am not too upset with this stat right here. 6.8 yards per play. That I am not upset about. But let's not forget, ladies and gentlemen, that Ben Johnson is on record for saying that I want to do better than the greatest show on turf. I want to be scoring like 40 points a game, on average. And I heard that in a press conference, guys, and I was like, what medications are you taking before these press conferences, Ben Johnson? Because, yeah, I know it's technically possible, but is it? Is it? Because I don't think that you going to the air on pretty much every other play is going to be that type of successful. It might get you to the postseason. It might get you a Super Bowl. I don't think you're going to do better than the greatest show on turf if you consistently pass the ball, because then defenses are going to scheme towards that. I think Ben Johnson, and he did a little bit of this last year, needs to do a really good job this year at mixing up his play calling. I might do a pass play here, then do 2 run plays. Oh, then I do 3 pass plays. Oh, then I do another 2 run plays. You got to keep the defense on their feet and guessing, because as a former defensive player, I studied offense. You can't be a good defensive player, whether it be at the Pop Warner level, the middle school level, the high school level, the college level, the pro level. I don't care. You cannot be good at any of those levels if you don't research your opposing side of the ball, right? To play good offense, you need to know how the defense thinks. To play good defense, you need to know how the offense thinks. And these are just really basic things you learn week 1 of playing competitive football. But like I said, there are a lot of good things to say this week about the Bears. 34 unanswered run points, yards after catch for the offense. We saw it there, that one pass, Bajent to Davis. I think yards after catch was something that the Bears lacked last year. And I think that if they can create yards after catch with the passing game the Bears already have in play, look out, NFL, because these monsters of the Midway, they are coming for you. It was a good game. Guys, it was a great week for Chicago sports. I can't say any more. I can't say any less. The Bears won their first preseason game. The Cubs played the White Sox at Wrigley. You have now, this just popped in my head. You have one of the Bears stadium food items going viral with the pretzel bear claw, which I guess is $40. But if you look up a picture of this thing, in my opinion, the thing is totally worth it. And you know what? I think we're going to do 1 week of like stadium eats here on Chicago Sports Mayhem and kind of go over some of the stadium foods that I've had in my lifetime, and stuff I haven't and want to try. Again, I want to thank everyone for joining me here on the Chicago Sports Mayhem Talk Show. I understand if you guys think I'm nuts, but I'm not nuts. I just love Chicago sports. Anyway, guys. I always end with little mighty words of wisdom. And keep trying. And I've been toying with this one all week. I'm thinking about what I was going to say, what I was going to do, what was my message for this week going to be. I know I've said never give up before, and keep trying is kind of along the same lines. But, I've been getting great opportunities, guys, without going out and begging for them, right? The opportunity when I got to do photography for the Savannah Bananas at Wrigley Field a few weeks back. That was just the opportunity presented itself, and I was lucky enough to get picked. And doing this show, being here at Illinois Media School, some of it is chance and some of it is luck. This is not the first school I looked at, guys, when I was thinking of coming into media, but it was the one I chose and that I'm happy I chose. But when I say keep trying, anything out there, guys, that you want to do, and I don't want to say have the ability to do, but anything that you're trying to do, want to do, or striving to do, in my mind, you can do it, because the only one stopping you from getting things done is you. No one else. Now, I understand if children are watching this, your parents have some say over your life, and yeah, they do. Right? But when you turn about, I'm not going to say when you turn 18. I'm not going to give people that, false sense of hope, and not listening to your parents when you're still a teenager, because I'm 26, so I still listen to my parents. But when you get to a certain age, you don't have to please everybody. Do what you want to do. Never give up, and you'll one day get there. And I'm living proof of that. Now, I'm going to be honest. Some people that see I'm wearing a fire department. I'm wearing a fire department shirt here. And many people might not know that my original plan was to become a firefighter in the Elgin Fire Department. It's what I really wanted more than anything in my life. Was to be a firefighter. I trained from the time I was 4 years old to the time I was 21 to be a firefighter. I have relationship with guys on the Elgin department that still go today. They consider me a member of their department and a member of their department family, and always will. And that means a lot to me. But taking this swing, coming into media, it was a big question mark. Is this something I'm going to end up loving to do? Because I love being around sports. I love talking sports. But I didn't know if this is something I was going to be good at. And I ended up loving it and doing it. So anything that you want to do and strive to do, you can get there. Just do it and don't give up. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't get there. I want to thank everybody for joining me for this episode of the Chicago Sports Mayhem morning show. Talk show. Used to be morning show when it was part of another network. Now it's my nightly talk show once a week. I want to thank everyone for joining me. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you have not already, because I cannot do this without you guys out there watching and just reveling in what I have to tell you. And I'm not an expert. I don't claim to be. I never played in the MLB. I never played in the NFL. But I've studied these sports for a long time, and I watch these sports every day. And like I said, just study the numbers, and I love doing that. And I love bringing you guys information if you're busy throughout your week to kind of get you caught up. But I want to thank everyone for joining me this week, and hope everyone can join me next week for an even more action-packed episode of Chicago Sports Mayhem. Peace out, everybody.